from going from Nut Street to Dead Crow, you're co-owning with Cole now. You also kind of got busy with other parts of your life, and either chose to or just could not be as involved as you were before. What happened there? Like, what was your reasoning or position?
So it's I would say there's a couple of things. There's a burnout effect that you get when you are booking comedy clubs 52 weeks a year. And so 2009, so this is like the 13th year that it's been going on. So I didn't book it all last year. Amy took over after the pandemic. Yeah. And I didn't book it all during the pandemic. So let's say 10 years of booking. And it's just constant.
Yeah, I can
24
imagine.
hours a day. Like, our work day ends here around 5 o'clock, and it's still 2 o'clock in the afternoon in LA.
Yeah.
Agents are out partying at comedy clubs at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they see somebody on stage, and they're like, "Hey, would you be interested in so and so? We just signed them." Just
right.
Constant emails, phone calls, which I didn't mind. I didn't mind at all. Yeah. I was learning as I was doing it. I had no background in it. Like I said, I started out booking on MySpace, and then dealing with Hollywood agents. 10 years later, or less than that, but for about 10 years, and that's a whole different game. I mean, that game is like, it's not set in stone, but there's a lot of do's and don'ts, and I was breaking every don't you could possibly, because I was coming at it from a comics point of view.
Yes.
Not just a club owner's point of view or a booker's point of view, but from a comics point of view.
Yes.
So I would say that if I had one weakness as a booking agent, it would be a double-edged sword weakness, because you would tell me somebody or try to present somebody to me, and I'd be like, that person, they're never going to make it. I mean, I knew, like, I could just tell, or right. They were big on TikTok, or not TikTok wasn't around back then, but
YouTube.
They were big on YouTube, or they had, they were funny, on what's the thing? You had like a 20-second window to be funny, and
maybe it was Vine or like early Instagram videos or something.
The social media aspect of it.
Yeah.
Or they would send me actors. They're like, this person's been in blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm not booking actors. I'm booking comics.
Yes.
And so I tried to be very pure to comedy when I was booking. And so that would be my weakness in a booking standpoint.
Yeah.
Or I didn't think you fit the club. And I'm sorry, I know the energy of the club. You just don't fit it. And so, but at the same time, it was not a weakness.
Yeah.
Because
that's exactly what
I presented. It didn't matter when you came to that club, or even when you come to Dead Crow now. It don't matter. Like, it's going to be somebody good. I used to have people come all the time that have bought tickets and will walk up to me at the bar and go, "Who am I seeing tonight?" And I was like, "Oh, you don't even." But that's how much they trusted the booking side of Dead Crow and Nut Street. They didn't care who they were coming to see. They just knew they were going to go have a good time. So it was a weakness and a positive.
Well, I certainly feel like you being a comic in this role of owner and like managing the club to a large degree, I saw that even in hindsight, I see it more as like a amazing feature, a very important feature about the inception of that culture that we were talking about.
Right. And
I think the creative freedom and integrity of a comedy club.
Right.
Because you definitely had this understanding about the art that even when people would fuck up, from like a business point of view, if you were there seeing it, you had this nuanced ability as a performer to know like that was an honest attempt.
Sure.
And that was
yeah,
actually
yeah.
a good bit. That was just kind of the audience wasn't there for it.
Right.
I can totally see that bit working. And I don't know. And also this as a comic wanting to preserve that ability to try things out, particularly at the
Sure.
open mic, and then understanding, of course, the weekend shows are about the headliner and creating an integrity for their slot
Right.
in the night. But yeah, I always felt like you being super involved was what made Nut Street what it was.
Right.
And I feel like Dead Crow had a good element to that, but as you pulled away for whatever
I see
reasons,
what you're saying.
it became to where like it's not 100%. That's maybe between 60 to 80%.
Sure.
And yeah,
I was at Nut Street. I was there all the time.
Yeah,
like I said,
like almost 100% of the time.
Oh my God. Well, the door, like no one would work the bar if I wasn't there. So,
Right.
and basically, like I said, 2009, there was a crash, right? The housing market. I was in construction, so I was out of work. So I basically was able to not only do comedy, but create my own job, my own payroll coming to me.
Yes.
And it wasn't a lot. It was just, I worked for tips. When I first started doing that with Brent, I didn't get paid other than the fact if I was bartending. That's why I volunteered to bartend, because there was no salary for that club to be open. So I would bartend, and I was making like $20 a night, and raising my kids were, 12 and 10, 12 and 9, something like that, 12 and 8, 3.5, whatever 3.5 years difference is. So they were young, and that was another thing that, I don't mean to bounce back and
no, it's fine. Bounce around, man. Bounce around.
But that was another thing that, so I'll get to that point. I was there all the time. And so my wife, Lisa, was having to, kind of single parent, and her job is Monday through Friday. So, that week, the club is Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. We were on opposite schedules. So I was there for, 4 years all the time.
Yeah.
I knew every comic. I watched every open mic. I watched every improv. I knew who was working towards being better. I knew who wasn't doing anything.
And just real quick on that, I just want to say that was another thing, particularly with who got paired, like as the opener or feature act with the headliners that would come in. You were just watching everyone over time, and you just had your finger completely on the pulse, not like as the owner / manager and someone, a performer that understands.
Right.
And so like I felt like your curation of that was impeccable. Like it was there was an art to it that was beautiful.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
because you don't want to do a like.
Yes.
An opener and a headliner to be the same, because you're watching the same thing. So you want a little bit of a yin and a yang to it, but nothing.
But not so much yin and yang that it just doesn't make sense.
That it doesn't make sense, or it's off the rails, or sometimes maybe you do. Sometimes maybe you want to shake it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And it is. It's just a matter of like plugging people in that are going to fit well, but not only that, plug them in when they're ready to be plugged in. I always had a little hierarchy with the comics, that there's a 4-minute comic, which is the open mic comic. You got to get good at that first.
Yes.
And then I would give like increments of 2 minutes. Now you're a 6-minute comic, and then now you're an 8-minute comic, and now you're a 10-minute comic. Okay, that's a lot of levels.
Yeah.
But when we start out, even I'm guilty as anyone else. When you start out, I could easily give you an hour, bro. I've been doing this for 3 weeks. I'm gonna go on stage and give you an hour. It's like, yeah, you can bore the shit out of us.
Yeah.
For 56 minutes.
Yes.
And give a good 4 minutes, but I don't want to hear the 56. You're going to, and so I would I had positions that people were in, and then once you made the 10-minute mark, then you were able to open up, for a working comedian on the weekend.
Yes.
If you were between 6 and 8, you usually got a 5-minute guest spot or a 6-minute guest spot. But I felt like I would do an injustice to the people that I was putting on stage, the locals that I put on stage, And which, by the way, I put locals on stage for a reason, because that curated the comedy scene we had here.
Mm-hmm.
It made the club stronger. It made you guys stronger. And that's why I never hired openers coming out of town.
Yeah.
Because it just made for a better comedy scene. And it was like a reward
for doing well.
For doing well. Yeah, it was like, you reached the level to go and do a guest spot on a weekend show.
Mm-hmm.
You've reached the level to do a 10-minute spot. You've reached the level to now do 25 to 30, after that, you basically can headline another 15 minutes. Once you're at 30 minutes, another 15 minutes is not that hard to, incorporate.
Yeah.
But I wanted people to be, if you had a 10-minute spot, I want you to be killing it all 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Now you may try a joke that doesn't work. I'm never going to fault a comic for that. You may do a whole 5-minute block that just shits the bed. It's not your fault. The energy shifted, or the fucking audience just wasn't into it. It's so amazing to me how audiences laugh and are silent at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's like, or this side of the room could not laugh harder, and this side of the room is, their arms are crossed, and I'm like, what? Are you guys watching the same fucking show? Like, yeah. This is, but it's when you're on stage, you can feel the energy in the pockets and the lows and the highs, but I never faulted comics for trying. If you wanted to go hang yourself on a limb, go knock yourself out. You may not make it back to the tree, but anyway, so I just kept those levels, and I encouraged people to do well, not for my benefit. It was benefiting the club. I'm not going to lie. I mean, having local talent that we could pull from, benefited the club way more than inviting people that I didn't know to come in and do a shitty 25 minutes. Yeah. And now I got a shitty show, I was so confident in everybody that went on stage at Nut Street and Dead Crow. There was no doubt in my mind that they were going to knock it out of the park. Mm-hmm. And so I knew I at least had a good first half of the show, regardless. Yeah. But, I mean, that's kind of how it was set up.
Yeah. So... No, go for it.
No. Here, I just remember we were talking about how I pulled back from it. So I was so immersed in it that I neglected my family at the same time.
Yes, yeah.
Honestly, would tell you.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was picking up on. Like it was not like there was a little bit of burnout. It felt like, but it was mostly like I just can't give that kind of time to this place right now.
I remember the argument so vividly because I felt like I didn't have a job, and I was creating income for the family, basically. Yeah. And we would my point of view for the arguments, my side that I would stand and dig in on was, let's say I was like I would pull something so profound out of like some position that I would never reach in society. Uh-huh. Well, let's just say I was a brain surgeon. I would have to go to school and then, get my doctorate and then, just residence. And I would just, but I think that was my way of like justifying that everybody's going to be broke when they're starting out a business. You're just not going to make money, and we were 4 years in and, I was definitely making a small stipend for the week to book the room. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't bartending anymore. So all that money was gone. Because once the club became so successful, they started bringing bartenders from upstairs to work the room, and they needed to, because it was so busy. There was so much booze that went out of that 100-seat bar. Sure. Our door staff were emptying recycling cans 5, 6, 7, 8 times a night. Mm-hmm. And these are like big, giant trash cans. Just so much booze. Because it was like an open door policy. You can come in and not watch the show, or you can come in and watch the show. It was just people coming from upstairs, bars, coming down to check it out before they went and saw a band. It was just, but anyway, it was, so I didn't feel like I was neglecting the family. I felt like I was, attributing or contributing. Yes. To
you're providing. Yeah.
Yeah, providing. But I was also there during the days and stuff. I felt like I was equally there. But When you're by yourself with kids,
Yeah.
it's a struggle. And if you're doing that for every night for, every weekend, so I couldn't do anything on the weekends, at night with her. So I was neglecting her as a wife, and just completely immersed in the business.
Yeah.
And so after a while I was like, it got to a point, I swear to God, if we hadn't had kids, we would not be together. Like it was like borderline, a divorceable time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But my thing was, let's just keep plugging, let's keep plugging. And so after the new place opened up.
That's a derogatory way to talk about your wife.
Yeah. Let's just keep plugging. It's just, when you have your own business and you're not in it with your partner, you neglect the family. I did. I'm speaking for me. I neglected it. I thought I wasn't. I really was. And so when the new place opened up, and then it even got worse at the Real Cafe, because now it's not my brick and mortar. Now it's another person's business that I have another obligation to now. I've got not only the comedy side of it, but I need to provide audiences so that they're making money, so that they keep us around. So once we got our new spot, me and Cole upfitted that place. So we were there for, I don't know how long, 6 months or so, completely gutting it, renovating it, building it out, everything, buying equipment for the kitchen. So that was another year of neglect. And then so when the new place opened up, I just didn't want to. I was getting burnt out booking, and I was really burnt out with the arguments that I was having at home, and justifiable arguments. I'm not saying no. I deserved every. And I feel like she was reaching out. She was like, "Hey, come back.
Yes.
Don't. This is going way too far. Come back." Which sounds very. Like it was literally on a cliff, I think, and just one shove off would have done it. But so I feel like at that moment I was like, okay, I talked to Cole and I'm like, I'm just going to book. I don't want, and I, in the beginning when you open up a place, the owners have to be there.
Yeah.
They should be there. So we were bartending. I was in the kitchen cooking sometimes, it was just one of us were there all the time. And so I just saw it like it's just too much, and I wanted to pull back, because I didn't want to get a divorce.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to miss my kids. I already missed a shit ton of my kids' life anyway, just from chasing, comedy and chasing acting, and putting all the energy into that. I feel like I was around, and maybe all parents feel this way. I feel like I was there, but I feel like I missed the whole fucking thing. It's just weird. And I know people have to work and you have to make money, especially if you're broke. And we've been broke like the whole time we've been married.
Yeah.
It just, it's just expensive. Life's expensive. And so, and of course me chasing the entertainment dream does not pay at all. And if I'm a comic and an actor, that's a train track.
It's a double whammy.
Double whammy going right off the cliff.
Yeah.
So I just decided, I'm just going to book the room and pull back from being at the club physically. And I was kind of 50-50 there. And then at the new place, when it opened up after the pandemic, I was just mentally done. Like I didn't want to. It was so far removed from what we had started with, because it's a business. And I think that's one reason the energy was so cool with Nut Street, is because it wasn't really a business.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was ever on paper.
Really?
Yeah. Like I owned
That's
it.
so cool.
I owned it, I owned it, but I didn't really own it.
Right. It was like a verbal agreement.
It was like a verbal agreement, and it was never. I don't think it was ever fucking registered. I don't know what. So I think that's why it was so fun, because I'm not a business. Yeah. I can start a business and I can make it awesome. But when I got to do books,
fuck that shit.
Fuck that, man. Like I'm just not that guy. And so like I ran it like it was a business, but it wasn't a business. I wasn't running it like a business. I was running like a fucking great place to go hang out.
Yes.
And so, but in reality, if you have employees and you have staff and you have equipment and you have bills and all this stuff and it's got to be a business.
Yeah.
And so Cole and his brother Jared and Amy are great at running businesses. I am not. So I felt like, and I still do, only thing that I bring to the table is me. Yeah. As a comic, me as a friend of comedy. And so I felt like I can't run a business. I can run a business. I can't do the legal stuff. I can't do the accounting. I can't do, the business 101 side of things. And so I didn't feel like that I needed to be in the way of that. And I also feel like I really, years ago, before way before the pandemic, I felt like, okay, is it better just to let it go like a child? Like you made this child, you helped it, through its stages of getting on its feet. Are you doing more damage to it by trying to like really hold on tight? Yeah. Or should I just let it go and give it to, Amy has such great ideas for the club, and I mean, way more like business savvy than I ever was going to be. And Cole and his brothers especially, is like his brother loves numbers. Yeah, the complete opposite of me. But so he does our accounting and stuff, and then they have accountants, and then those accountants have accountants. It's just like the business side of things is, you've got to keep them open. You've got to pay staff. You've got people to be responsible for. I can't just run it like a my garage on a weekend. Yes. But
although that was fun doing it that way.
It was so fun, dude. But so that I just felt like if I can't offer that, and it's become as big as it has become, and I don't mean like there's chains of them across the country, but it has become literally from a basement bar with maybe 10 eclectic folding chairs that I found in the 3 stories of that music venue that were our audience, to now being, a lot that sits on fucking, I don't know what an acre looks like, but I know it's not an acre, but it has 3 points of sale, 2 bars, a service bar, cocktail waitresses, bartenders, door staff.
Yes. The new club is incredible from like a architectural and like layout point of view.
Dude,
it's nice.
My goal was to like make people laugh. I did that the first year of this whole thing. This thing has grown and succeeded way more than I ever thought. I ever even not thought, but just set out to do. Yeah. So I don't want to stand in its way. And I feel like I was a decision maker, and being a decision maker, I don't, they still consult in me, and that's cool. They don't have to. Yeah. But I don't want to be the one to like, if it's going to become something even larger, I want it to be even better and larger. And I don't mean like, I just mean popular. Yeah. More popular. If I can stand out of the way of that, then that's what I wanted to do. So, and this way, weekends with my wife are, that's like my special time. Kids are out of the house now. Yeah. And my daughter works at the club, which is cool. She cocktails. I mean, she doesn't want to, she's not going to do it forever, but I'm glad she's doing it. And I'm glad, she likes going there because she likes hearing the comedy. You know?
Yeah.
And she's not a comedian. She's super funny, but she has no goals to be a comic. But I think it'd be a cool place to cocktail, you know?
Yeah.
But so I just kind of got out of the way, and so I just told them that I wanted to, you know, back off completely.
Yeah.
And so this year we signed the paperwork, and I'm not a part of it.
I didn't even really know that.
Yeah, well, that just happened this past year. So I mean, it's not something that I'm like gonna run around town and say, but I'm not a part of it for all the right reasons. Mm-hmm. I'm not a part of it for my wife. I'm not a part of it so that it can grow.
Yeah.
However, Cole and Jared and Amy want it to grow. I don't want to have a veto or even a. If you always have somebody that doesn't maybe think the same thing should happen, then I don't want to I don't want to introduce a negative thought to your plans.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's like if that's what you think is going to be awesome, fucking go do it.
Yeah.
Don't come to me and be like, hey, you think this would be awesome? And be like, nah. Or maybe I go, absolutely, that's a great idea. Fucking run with it. You know. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to be that